like when I was in my 20s, I played in a rock and roll band. So it was, living in New York City.
Right,
It was, it was a lifestyle that that doesn't last. You can't do that forever. And then in my
right.
30s, I started, I really felt it, like what it had done to me. And I just did it.
Hello, everyone. Today I'm pleased to have Danny Drogone with me, a writer who recently published his first book called The Sun Follower. This story takes readers on a journey of resilience and self discovery following a protagonist who finds hope and strength in the face of life's darkest moments. We'll talk about Danny's journey, how personal challenges have shaped his perspective, the themes in his book, and what it takes to bring a story to life. Make sure to check out The Sun Follower, available right now on Amazon. Plus, we'll discuss Danny's experiences with social media, how he connects with his audience, and what's next for him in writing and content creation. So let's dive in. Hey Danny, how are you?
Hey, Mom, how's it going? It's been a while, man. How you doing?
Thank you for doing this. I'm so glad to see you, man. It's been a
Oh,
while.
yeah, thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah.
I
Where are
think
you?
I'm in Philadelphia.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Huh?
yeah. We right now we're in the process of um we're going to Mexico in like February for like 4 or 5 months. And
Okay.
then we're gonna be kind of like traveling around, kind of nomadic right now. So this is actually an Airbnb. So we're staying here and then we're going to Mexico, then we'll come back for the summer. Just kind of like moving around for right now, just having fun while we can.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. Is this your new state, like new thinking of living nomadically? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying it out. We're seeing what it's like. We're both like have online jobs, so it's like let's go places and stuff. And we might go longer to some place. We're just trying to figure out where our final destination is, I guess,
Oh,
and then
that's
travel while we can. So yeah, it's been fun. We really haven't left this city, but we have sort of got rid of a bunch of our stuff.
uh,
Like a lot of furniture. We have like a storage unit for some of the stuff that we really like value, and then but everything else we're just like we had like a nice big two-bedroom apartment, fixed basement, backyard, and I don't know. We just had a lot of stuff, and it just kind of like clearing it out.
and is that in Philadelphia or?
Yeah, that was in Philadelphia too. So we like even though it's like nomadic, but we're still in the same city. We're just in a different neighborhood now. It's kind of like transitional of like, okay, her family's here, so we still have things to do, and but we wanted to like take care of the first steps, get out of our lease that we
Okay.
had, and start. Yeah,
It's amazing, man. So yeah, I wanted to catch up because you have, I mean, since we left work, we never got in touch, and since then, a lot has changed, a lot has happened with you, and so I wanted to see how you're doing, and also see if you could share some perspectives for where you could all grow and learn. Um, so, do you want to
yeah,
start with, you had this tragic moment with your life where you had an issue with your health. And do you want to
yeah,
share what happened and how it has, whether it has changed perspective about life or anything?
yeah. Well, I mean, really, it all started like 6 years ago, and I was
Mhm.
like a little unhealthy, and had I went to the doctor, and they said I had high blood pressure, like really high, and they wanted to get me on meds, and I said, well, what can I do to get not, I don't really want to be on meds, so. They're like, well, you have to, you're going to have to lose like 40, 50 pounds and you're going to have to eat really healthy. And I don't know, no one can, you can't, I don't know, you can do that. She kind of tested my ability to do that. So I came back to that same doctor about 3 or 4 months later, lost like 45 pounds. And like, so that was like the beginning. But I still hadn't got myself to the healthy point I wanted. So it was 2.5 years ago, I was out in LA. Because I continued to, even though I like lost the weight and I got healthier, I was still smoking and stuff like that. So and I don't even we. So I was out in LA, and it was kind of the middle of the night, and I felt weird, and I got my wife Jackie to take me to the hospital, and they were like tested me to see if I was having a stroke. They gave me like CT scans, and by the time I was just like, I'm thirsty. I had a mild stroke. To long story short, and so after that, like from that day on, I pretty much quit smoking. I had to rehabilitate. I had to go through speech therapy and physical therapy. Um, it wasn't, I mean, people have way worse strokes, but it was definitely took me about 3 months to kind of get back to normal. But that was definitely a wake-up call of like, wow, like you better get a little bit healthier. And even though you thought you were healthy before, maybe you weren't. And they really never figured out why. Um,
Do you
like a
have
lot
that
of
in
my
your,
numbers like
is
that.
this genetic or is something that you never have been exposed to?
I mean, they said I like the only thing that runs in my is like high blood pressure,
Uh-huh.
but it really, I don't know. They really never could explain it because I basically after that I went to a bunch of cardiologists and I went to a bunch of doctors and they're like, I don't know, we're not finding anything. They're like they test. Well, then the good part about it was I got to find out like I was actually healthier than I thought I was, and but it was definitely frustrating to not figure out why.
Right,
There was
right.
a couple people who speculated it could have been caused by COVID, because there was a lot of men between like 35 and 50 who were having strokes. It
Oh,
could have been
well.
like from asymptomatic COVID.
That was
So
after COVID?
yeah, it was like, yeah, it was 2.5 years ago. So it was like 2022, early 2022.
Oh, wow. Do you think, did you take vaccine?
Yeah, yeah.
D- uh,
Um,
did they say anything about that? Or would that
no,
be a
I mean,
side effect?
the only way they would have been able to figure that out is like I could have been like a guinea pig for some experiment or something like that. But
Right, right,
yeah, so, but it was definitely, no matter what it was a wake up call
right, right,
to, make sure I stay healthy. Like I quit smoking cold turkey, um, and always constantly trying to like keep myself healthy. I'm probably healthier now at 44 than I was at 34.
No, you
So,
look great, man. Yeah,
well,
to be
I know
honest,
you're a big runner now, so I think that's really cool. I know I've been following.
yeah,
I
yeah,
tried the
I've been
running
running
thing.
for, huh? I'm sorry,
I said I tried the running thing.
right?
Um, During COVID, I got up to 17 miles and then I like broke a toe or something,
Uh-huh.
and I could never really get back to running, and I had like knee problems and stuff. So then I switched over to biking.
Okay.
It's a little easier, but I see what you're doing and it's pretty cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I also have a knee issue. I had a knee surgery when I was in my 20s because of I used to play soccer. Um, but it gives me trouble. But it's something gets me keep it going, keeps me busy. Um,
Yeah.
so about your stroke, how long were you in the hospital for? What did you feel when that happened? When you say wake up call, uh, are you looking at life differently or what was it like?
Yeah, I think, as I've gotten older, it's like little by little, it's like I know it sounds um boring to some people who are like younger and like I'd never want to have to do that. But like as you get older, it's just like cutting out a little something after a little something
Hmm.
and just kind of like getting yourself healthier. Because I grew up, like when I was in my 20s, I played in a rock and roll band. So it was, living in New York City.
Right,
It was it was a lifestyle that doesn't last. You can't do that forever. And then in my
right.
30s, I started, I really felt it, like what it had done to me. And I just didn't think I could like get over it. Which is kind of stupid. It is why I tell like young kids now when I see them, I'm like, you're not even close to being done. So don't like, they're like, they've given up because they're 32 and they've gained a couple pounds. I'm like, that can go away. Like your lifestyle, you have tons of years ahead of you. And so, I mean, just little by little over the years, I've sort of had to either say, do I want to feel this way or can I just get rid of something? And it started with like, I had to get rid of gluten because I realized I had a gluten allergy and I can't tolerate it. And
Hmm.
then and then it was milk and lactose and, dairy. I just can't tolerate it. And it was like, and I know a lot of people who it hurts them, but they're like, the food is so good, I would rather hurt myself. And I'm the opposite. They're like, well, what about when you travel and stuff? You don't want to eat all the food? And I'm like, I do, but I also want to travel. And
Right, right.
you can't really travel if your stomach's hurting all the time. So like, and it feels a lot better to travel and to, do things and feel healthy than it is to eat unhealthy just because it tastes good. So
Right,
it's
right.
just little by little as you get older figuring out what affects you
Mhm.
and how you really want to feel overall.
Right. So you changed a lot of your eating habit, is that what you're saying, when it comes?
Yeah, I mean, that was happening during my 30s, and then like I really just the dairy part I needed to get rid of, and that changed a lot of everything. It made it easier to start
Hmm.
like gluten and you're gonna like lose weight, but that didn't really happen. Because you think, well, I'm not eating bread anymore and pasta, then you can find gluten. I mean, it's all carbs, so it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, it's just like, okay, what is affecting your system? Just kind of like reading your body. You know what I mean?
Right,
Yeah, I feel like you're a pretty healthy dude, so you probably haven't had as many of the other issues maybe as I have because you've probably been healthier because I have some bad habits from my 20s and 30s and stuff. So it was like, okay, I got to really get rid of some of these habits.
yeah. I mean, thank God in that sense, and food wise, it never had any issue. But in my family history, I have terrible health genetically, to be honest. My father has like about 13 stent
Yeah.
in his heart. My mom is diabetic. My father is diabetic. So, in that case, I'm not, you know, I have to be careful. I have no option. Like I
Yeah,
have
you
very,
see that that's your wake up call is like seeing
yeah,
everybody
seeing
else.
them and yeah, taking care of them and knowing that, I don't want to, I have to be, in a good health, or else I I don't want that lifestyle. It's kind of that way. That's the way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. As for now you are a published author, and even though I didn't finish reading the book, my wife did, and she loved it. And she and I got to know about the book through her, and I do that a lot of times because she would ask me like which book should I read, and I would give her a book, and then I get to read the book through her. So about what where did that passion come from about writing? And yeah, so tell me about that, and then I'll follow up with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been writing my whole life. I was, like I said, I played music, but to get me into music all stemmed kind of from writing.
Hmm.
Because when I was a teenager, I was writing like poems and raps,
Hmm.
and then I was like, well, then I can make the music to go behind this. So that kind of inspired me to make the music.
Okay.
But really it all started from the writing that because I wanted it to put it to music and I wanted to make my own music. So then that sort of just jump started into a music career instead of a writing career. And I moved to New York City. I had a rap group, I had a rock group, and then we finally my second rock group was called Shotgun Wedding, and I was one of the lead songwriters and the guitar player for that band. And so again, you're still right. I was writing lyrics. I was writing our press releases. So I was always like continuously writing. Um, Skip forward, and then I was in a new band. One of my friends passed away from suicide, and so there was like
Oh no.
that. really triggered my writing. Started, just to get stuff out. I was even writing a lot more. Um, and then when the music started to like, it's not like it was fading, but like just the like I said earlier, like the rock and roll lifestyle can be busy, and it's not just it's hard on your body, but it's also hard because what it was turning out to be that you would have to travel a lot more. And at that point, I was just it just got married, and I was like, I don't know if I want to be traveling around for the rest of my life without her, basically. I didn't want to. So I started to rethink of like what I wanted to do, because being a musician means you have to travel and you're on the road a lot.
Right.
But not in a fun way sometimes. It sounds like glamorous, but it's a lot of just lonely, and you're like in hotel rooms, and it just didn't sound as fun as it did in my 20s,
Right.
as it did in my early 30s. So I started like sort of transitioning into like, what can I do that's still creative and utilizes my creative skills? And so I just started writing. I started with blogs, and then I went to screenplays. And what I found with screenplays is that, I can give you a screenplay, and it's hard to read for anybody who's not in the business, who's not an
Hmm.
actor or director. So it was basically kind of just spiraled into, you know what? Someone said, why don't you write a book? Because you have all these great ideas, and you're writing them in screenplays, but half of those aren't going to get made. So you're kind of wasting your time. You write a book, it's made. You have not only do you get to like, use your creative process to create this long story, and you can do
Right.
it exactly the way you want it, but people will be able to access it. Like everybody will be able to access it. Like a
Hmm.
book is accessible to anybody, where a screenplay is not. So, and that was like, that all came to what's the idea, what's going to be, because writing a book is a lot of words. It's a lot of pages. And then the Sunflower, actually, it came from a real story where my dad and my mom were married for like 41 years. And I went and visited them one summer. And my dad tells me that he's going to leave.
He's
And
gonna
I'm like,
need what?
leave my mom.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, all right. Well, that's a lot to take in. This is the year I was getting married too. And then,
Oh wow.
so I go, well, didn't, if that's what you want to do, then just do it the right way. Okay. Just make sure you do it the right way. And then I left and went back home to New York. And a day or two later, my dad had just packed up all his stuff and drove away
Oh
and just
wow.
left. And we
So
didn't even
he
know where
told you, but he didn't tell your mom. Is that what it is?
he didn't tell anybody else. He just told me. He
Oh
didn't tell
wow.
my brother. He didn't tell my sister. He didn't tell my mom.
Hmm.
And then he just wrote a note. And I think I don't even know if he wrote a note. He just left with all like his stuff. And we couldn't get a hold of him for forever. And then I remember that he played this video game called Second Life. So I joined Second Life. It's like an online world, right? You have an avatar, and people create their own worlds and stuff. And I remember he like was obsessed with this game, so I went on there trying to find him, because he wouldn't answer his phone calls, because a lot of people, he's probably getting voice messages that were really mad at you. So I don't know if he was scared to answer, or he didn't know what to say. So after a couple of months of playing this game, I found him inside the video game. So,
No
which
way.
was,
Serious?
yeah,
Wow.
like, not, I didn't find him in real life. I found his avatar in this real. I recognize his voice because you talk to people in this game. And so, yeah, it was kind of wild. And that kind of inspired, like, that's kind of what the Sunflower is about, is like this guy looking for his father in this um, virtual reality sort of world. Except for I just hyper advanced it in the book and
Yeah,
put it in the
yeah.
future.
In that regard, so were you? It seems like you were very close to your dad.
Yeah, I'm still close with them. I mean, yeah, it's all been sort of figured out since then. It was definitely he wasn't sure um, how to handle the situation. He didn't
Yeah.
do it the right way.
Yeah, it
eventually.
happens to all of us, I guess. But 41 years of his committing to this, that's amazing. That's itself is a success. But it just, I guess, probably he didn't know how to handle that exact situation. Uh,
Yeah,
how,
I
how
feel
to have that exit strategy. Uh,
yeah. I think he was scared she would convince him to stay or something, maybe.
right,
And
right.
so, yeah,
How's your mom doing?
she's good. She's good. They're both remarried. Um,
Okay, that's good.
she's happy, very happy. So I think it sort of worked out. I think I
Yeah,
know she.
I know. As you grow, 41 years, you can definitely, fall apart in a sense that you could become a completely different, two
Oh
different
yeah, yeah.
person.
It's always relationships are always
Yeah,
like refiguring it out every
yeah,
so often. I know I've been married for 11, what am I? What are we at? 12 years almost this year. So,
yeah. Mine is gonna be 15.
yeah.
Uh,
So
um,
you know,
yeah, it's
and we've been together for like 18 years. So you're like, oh, and we're like, even in this situation now, we're like, what are we doing? It's fun. It can be scary. You know, you had this bigger place, you get comfortable, and then now it's a little more, it's fun and it's also uncomfortable a little
right,
bit. So
right.
you have to figure stuff out. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's where the book came from. That's where the idea.
one day at a time, huh?
Yeah.
So as for the book, so it was never a plan. It's just something that you never you had the passion for writing, but it was not as something that you initially thought that you would be writing a book. Is that what I would say? Or you always wanted to become a musician?
I feel
Or
like I just always wanted to do something with my creativity. I've always been I went to school for art,
okay,
visual art.
hmm,
And then, and then I found music. I mean, it's really, all those things kind of all do the same thing. They
right.
spark the same piece of my brain, So it's like, what is sometimes for me, I am sort of left brain, right brain. So there's a logical part of me that's like, what makes more sense? And the writing, I think, always made sense. Writing was always behind everything, was behind the music and was behind, like it's always trying to tell a story, even with my art. So it's always been right there, Like I won this national award when I was in like sixth grade. And I, kind of didn't really know what that meant at the time and didn't realize that like it was always just there. And when I came back around to it,
It's
I
just
was
something
probably,
that fulfills you. Is
yeah,
that right?
yeah.
As for when you were writing the book, and when you decided from the decision to completion, was there a moment where you felt like you wouldn't finish it? And how?
No, I mean, actually, the harder part was so I had finished like a version of it, and it was so the version that your wife read and that you have is like about little less than 100,000 words to give you some
Mhm.
sort of. The original version was about 150,000 words, so it
Okay,
was about 50% longer.
okay.
Uh, and I finished it really quick. I was just in a very good space. It was also during the same time I was like just started losing weight. So I had this like Eye of the Tiger marathon moment.
Hmm.
Like I always compare like writing to like marathons but it was like, okay, I got it done. But it was, I didn't realize at the time how sloppy it was until I took a step back. So I pitched it to a publishing company and they were like really interested. They loved the idea. This is a hard process, and then you go through it, and it gave me a soft pass. So I kind of put it on the shelf for a while, realizing, like a lot of people aren't even taking, they're not even looking at stuff that's over 100,000 words. So then I started writing. I wrote a second book and I wrote a third book, like really quick drafts of these second and third books. And then during the pandemic, um, I had basically I wasn't working, so I had a lot of time to start refocusing on like what am I focused on right now. And the second book was called Sport Politic Fame. And during the pandemic, I don't know, that sort of I didn't want to write about that at the
Uh-huh.
time. Even though I had already written the book, I was kind of like hesitant to see where like it would go because it was too relevant and the whole landscape was changing because of the pandemic,
Right.
or at least it was, like it's kind of come back around. But so I went back to the Sunflower and I was like, what can I do with this book? And I sent it to a developmental editor and she took a look at it and she was like, you really, what you could do, the one thing I can see after reading this is that you could probably split this book into two. So that's kind of what that is. So there really is like a whole second book that's already sort of been outlined,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And
That's
then I
coming
took
up?
yeah, I mean, I'm trying, like, um, trying to get the action to make the second book happen. Like,
Got it.
I've sold a good amount of books, but you want to sell more than what I've sold, and it's sort
Right.
of like lost steam in the marketing sense.
Uh-huh.
But um, yeah, so there's like a whole second book, but the first book was cut into two halves, and then I sort of just extended some of the like and just changed how I wrote. So I made like huge mistakes. I basically had to rewrite that whole book because of some of the mistakes I was making over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was not, people think, oh, I can write a book. I wrote the first draft, I wrote the second draft, I wrote the third draft, and then I realized I have to rewrite this again. And then that same thing happened for my second book, and the same thing's happening right now for my third book. Because I wrote them really fast, and I was kind of like a little amateurish at the time. Um, and that's, but I think that's like the difference between what makes a good writer. It's because you're not done. And like I think a lot of people are like, isn't that it? And isn't that all that I have to do? And you're like, no, that's not it. And to use marathons is what I say, like a lot of people can run a marathon, but if you really want to be do you want to run a marathon? That's definitely an amazing feat, right? Writing a book is an amazing feat for anybody. Like getting it to the point where you're competing with some of the better books is a whole nother thing. That's like a, a step up in what your training is. Like if you're competing, it depends on what level you're expecting to get at. I mean, I know you're not trying to be like a professional marathon runner as far as no, right? So, but it's like if you want to be a professional marathon runner, like, just that extra amount of work to get to that level is it's kind of daunting, but
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
like
I get it because once Kobe Bryant was giving a interview, and he was saying, everybody sees the success of how great I am, but the sacrifice I had to endure to get to this point is, if you were to give it to average man, I would say no, because this requires a different kind of sacrifice. So to be great, yeah, it's great, but it's what also in your life, what are you giving up to get
yeah,
to become that great? Um, so that's always the case in every scenario when you either you become a great writer or a great a sportsman. To become great, there are so many other things you will have to give up.
right,
Um,
exactly,
uh,
yeah,
yeah,
and it's
that
like
requires that kind of sacrifice. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I have so many friends that are like, you want to, you don't have any video game systems, and I'm like, I don't have time for video games. Like, I don't think I've ever had a video game. I just like that's when what do you do at night? That's when I write. What do you do during the day? Well, sometimes I write, like, and then whatever odd job or whatever I'm doing. So it's like, um, yeah, like when I was writing that book, I was working like 40 some hours a week, and like I get home at night after like a double, and I'd write for 4 hours. Like I'm
Right.
tired, so there was like no space for like fun at that point. But I was like, I really want to get this done. And I've, I've
Well, I know.
my
Also,
method has switched.
would you call it fun? The other things that the things that you are doing, it must be that fulfilling, and yeah, it could be like, for example, you were saying about running a marathon, right? Um,
Yeah,
Running marathon is great because you are running with the, maybe if you're running a very popular marathon, you're running with 30, 40,000 people,
yeah,
that energy itself is great, right? That yeah, it could be tough to run that many miles, but that's not the hardest part.
yeah,
The hardest part is the training, right?
yeah,
The
exactly.
the day to day, that every week that you have to get up and go run for 30, 40 miles a week, that's the hardest part.
Yeah,
And for
yeah,
you, probably finished product could be it would be nice to see it, but to be able to, the description that you gave is like, editing, rewriting, and getting to that point is what the work is. But
yeah,
you understand the process, and you're doing amazing. So with that, that the whole process, you enjoy it, right?
yeah, yeah. No, I do. I mean, I that's the thing. It's like, and that's what I tell everybody. I had a writer come to me recently. He wanted to write a story. And I think one of the first things he asked me was like, "Do you think this will be, just gave me the kind of lowdown of what the story is about." And he said, "Do you think this will be successful?" And I was like, "Hold up. That's not the question you need to ask. The
Right,
question is, are you like, you need to like be passionate about this because you have to do the whole thing.
right,
And it doesn't, I can't tell you the outcome. I can't tell you what's going to happen to your story. All I can tell you is that if you don't put the passion and the work into it, it won't be successful. And if
right.
you do put the passion, you're definitely going to have a lot more chance of it being successful. Then, like, that shouldn't be your question. Yeah, maybe it could be. It's a good pitch, but there's going to be a lot of work involved to get it to that point. So don't even worry about that. You have to enjoy the process. You just like for a run every morning and just do it. And other days you don't want to do it. I'm sure there's days when you don't, even though you love it. There's days you're like, but if I skip out today, then it's just not gonna. It's gonna mess me up. So I
Right.
just and then once you're doing it, then all of a sudden you might now you're enjoying it again, even though you didn't feel like doing it or something like that. And sometimes those are the days where you like it the most, where it starts off your days. You wake up on the wrong side of the bed and you got to go do something that you normally love to do, but not today. And then you start doing it and you're like, okay, I get it. No, this is good. I'm glad I got up. I'm glad I just metaphorically went for a run. You know what I mean? Whatever it is you're doing.
Right, right, exactly. And as an artist, you are a creative person. Whenever an actor doing a role, throughout the process, they, it also the character they play, it changes a little bit the fabric of their own life when they go through it, and um, sometimes I mean, they say that they come out of it, but of course, each character stays a little bit, and there are a lot of great actors said these things that, it doesn't matter how hard you try to get out of it, but there are certain things will stay with you. Um,
Yeah.
and when you go through the process, when you went through the process of this writing, to from the starting and now that you are published author, when you look back, what do you think has changed? Did it change?
Oh,
Did anything
what changed about
the
my
the
character?
process as a person, or your thought process, or how you look at life, or how you live,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think just doing anything and having sort of I don't know, humans, right? I think we're like kind of ritualistic or routine. Like we need a routine a lot. Like I probably have like ADHD or something like that, like a little OCD. But so like just having something to do every day, and the more you start completing things, the better you feel about the process. And sometimes that's what you want to do. Like for instance, when I lost like a lot of the weight, I just, I wanted to see results. I wouldn't always tell people to like just go lose 40 pounds in 4 months because can be kind of drastic. But for me, I'm a person who like needs to see results.
Hmm.
Um, and I like to finish, because that's, I think a lot of like people start too many different ideas. And I could do the same thing if I wanted to. That's why I have to keep myself really grounded and disciplined and just focus on the idea at hand until I can, like, I can't work on this right now until this point. So now I'll work on something else, but not splitting those day by day and going, I'm going to work on this book today and this book tomorrow and this book. It's about kind of like now it's been like, what is even again recreating a new schedule because I'm kind of doing a new profession. So I'm like, okay, and I'm doing this because I want to support my writing career a little bit better, and it's something I can do online and something I can, still travel, the thing that
Hmm.
we're trying to do. So it all works out, and then maybe invest in myself into the
Right.
books a little bit more because sometimes it feels like you're running your own business when if you're self-publishing. Um, so I guess in all that, yeah, it's just become a little more disciplined
Got
in
it.
your routine. Like, and you need to be that in order to like be successful, I think. You can't just be scattered. And I think
Right.
that's a big difference between people who are successful and people who aren't. And whether it happens right away, you can be very disciplined and you might not see results right away, but you're going to be more likely to see the results. And I think that's what I've become since I started writing books. It gave me something to be more routine and disciplined about.
So that kind of taught you to be patient and not to have an immediate result.
Yeah,
You know that you just keep doing it, right? Is that
right, right. I mean, and if anybody knows, I mean, if you're a writer, you send out like I sent out the Sunflower to about 60 agents and got like rejections. And then
right?
I had the second book and I was like, I don't know, how long can I pitch this book? I got some good rejections too, where people are like, I really like this, but it's just not doesn't work in my lineup right now.
Mhm.
We don't know that the sci-fi market's weird right now, so it was like kind of a weird time. Um, so eventually I just said, you know what, this is I'm gonna publish this myself, and then I can kind of like I just wanted people to read it because I'd been working on it for so long. I was just like, I just want people to be able to read it, and I'm really glad I did it this way because it feels like that book that I just wanted to put out like that. And my
Mhm.
second book, I'm pitching again, so like to agents, because the dream obviously is to get like a real like a major publishing deal
Right.
where you are, you know. Working under one of the big four publishing houses, and you're maybe more chances of becoming because once you're under one of those publishing houses, they're going to promote your book.
Right.
You're going to be at the front of the store at Barnes and Nobles. You're going to be at the top of the list when you go on Amazon. So that's why you want that because when you're doing it this way, you're marketing yourself. So it's almost like you're running your own business.
Yeah. What are the top four publishing companies?
I believe it's I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, I know it's like Penguin,
Right, right,
uh,
right.
Randall. I'm trying to.
Um,
I know one of them. I know two of them combined. So it's yeah, HarperCollins, Simon and Schuster, Macmillan, Hachette, and Penguin. Yeah, and some of these, it's really like four now because I think two of these.
they're coming
Um,
together. Like there was this thing that they're combining, right?
yeah,
They're
yeah. I mean, yeah, and which makes it rougher for
even yeah.
to get a publisher, but it is in this market now. There's a big people are there's a balance almost between self-publishing and publishing. But really with the self-publishing, it's about like how are you going to invest in yourself too? Like
Right.
so that's there will be like right now I'm working on getting like to a round two, like a bigger second push
Hmm.
because I felt like we were like kind of timid with the first push, and now I'm just like I said, I'm going through like getting like a new job sort of
Hmm.
that I hope will provide for that because you really do have to like invest in some capital into it because those are the only people who are gonna sell a lot of books self-publishing wise on their own.
Um, yeah, the as for I mean, in today's world is becoming everything is becoming more of a individual level unless you are backed by a big company. Uh,
Yeah,
it's that's what is with this technology is everything is becoming either you are either you are called a real estate agent or you know any kind of a singer or any of those things. It becomes like you have to self promote. You have to do your
yeah,
own advertising. It's a lot of different kind of uh, platform there you have to be. Before it was like okay, you just give you hire a ad company and they will do it for
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah,
And even yeah,
it's
and
harder
even if
out
you're
there.
doing social media, I mean, it's that's still another, it's you think a lot of people are going viral, but a lot of people are kind of paying to go viral,
Right,
there's a big market for that, like less and less people you think are seeing you, even though I mean I have like 1,000 some followers on Instagram,
right,
600 followers on TikTok, but on Instagram, it's very, I don't know, like you realize your stuff is not getting as seen as you think. It's not getting seen by your 1,000 followers. It's
right.
like getting, I put up a reel and I can look at the numbers and be like, oh, we got like 80 views or something. And some get more and some get less. But yeah, they also want you to put a little money into it,
Right.
like kind of it says like boost your post or it says like make an advertisement that will get like 1,000 views. So you're still like, even in the social media game, it's kind of into, or you just have something that's so viral that it does it on its own, but that's a little harder, obviously, to like
Yeah, I
everybody's
guess
trying to
if
make
you
something
just
viral.
keep doing what you're doing, at some point something will is supposed to catch on, and even people who go on viral, like you, they were saying sometimes I listen to them like they've been doing it for like 4, 5, 6 years, and all of a sudden one went viral, and from then on it just gets there. And for some people, they get lucky early on, and then it's also everything has to play. Um, I feel like. As for you are from Boston, right?
No, no, I'm from I'm a Navy brat, so I lived everywhere growing up. It's probably
No,
why
I
I'm
didn't
nomadic
think you were
now.
from Boston.
I don't know. Maybe there was someone else from Boston.
Were you living in Boston?
No, I never lived in Boston.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting. So where did you come from?
I
Like,
ever uh my dad was in the Navy, so
okay,
we moved around a lot. I think I trying to think. I know I went to 7 elementary schools.
okay,
So that's how much like we moved. But before I even went to elementary school, I lived in like 3 or 4 different states. So it's like a lot of moving around, a lot of different schools. And then I think we ended up in Virginia Beach, and then my dad retired, so we finally settled down basically. And then I moved to New York as a
How old
21
were
year
you when you moved to New York?
21.
21 years old. Okay, and what made you decide to move to New York?
I just wanted to play music. I wanted to like I dropped out of art school and then I
Uh-huh.
went and I went to New York and I was like, I'm gonna make music here. I don't even know what
Uh,
I'm. I had made an album before that. I had made my own solo album, like kind of a rap.
and what instrument do you play?
I play the guitar and the keyboards and piano,
Okay,
bass.
very nice.
So,
Do you wanna tell me a little bit about New York experience that you have lived here? How long did you live here?
17 years.
17 years. Okay. Well, I got to meet you in Bryant Park
Yeah.
Grill, and we worked there for a long time, and you know, it, it, and that place, it will have always will have a special
Yeah.
space in me because I for me it was a great place to work at.
Yeah.
What was your experience like in New York City, and how was it? How was working in Brand Park for you?
Yeah, I mean, Bryant Park was like the sort of the, and I ended my New York in at Bryant Park. I think I worked at Bryant Park for 9 years and 9 months.
Okay,
And then I moved to Philadelphia. And so that was like, I don't think I probably would have ever left if that was like the only, okay, we're moving. Okay, I'm gonna leave this place. But yeah, I mean, New York was great, and getting to like restaurants were always sort of in the backdrop. I mean, I was playing in bands for a lot of
right.
the years, and before Bryant Park, there was Outback,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and that's where a lot of actually people from Bryant Park migrated from Outback. So
Oh,
like,
really? Oh, wow.
yeah, like big guy was from Bryant Park, and Eva, and I mean, there were Martha. I mean, every like a whole list of people came from Bryant. Amon. Like I just keep going, and
Right,
it
right.
was yeah. We started figuring out like, oh, there's money to be made over here at Bryant Park. Let's go over there. Work outside in the summers. Okay, cool. So yeah, a lot of us, and they liked. I think they like people from Outback because Outback does like they were basically getting pre-screened people because if you work at Outback, you have to go through like a personality test.
Okay.
So the weird part is so you have to it basically are you an honest person type of thing, or
Uh-huh.
do you have character, or are you a weirdo? And so they don't hire people at Outback. So like Brian Park knew that, and they were just like, let's just all these people are good because they've kind of all passed this assessment, so they're better than some other people who haven't. We don't know about this. So
Oh,
it's like a
wow.
pre-screening. Yeah, I mean, in New York, the whole experience, Brian, everything is New York was fun. In my 20s, it was definitely a blast. It was kind of wild, playing in bands and just late nights. I was kind of a wild kid until I met my wife, Jackie. So, um, sort of calmed me down a little bit. I mean, at first we weren't very calm even when we were dating, but yeah. And, and then we went over to Bryant Park, and we went together too. Like it was we started dating at Outback, and then we moved over to Bryant Park. And I don't think Donna even knew we were dating when we
Uh-huh.
first got there. That's her manager. And then she finally figured it out one day. Okay, I see what's going on here. All right. The cat's out of the bag. But yeah. And still, every time I go back to New York, that's where I get off the train and I go right over to Bryant Park, grab a drink or say hi to this.
To everybody.
Yeah. I don't know if you know what's going on now. There's like a lot. They are talking about like I don't know, they're not giving them a new lease.
Yeah, I'm not very good at revisiting places. I mean, I have worked maybe a lot of great restaurants in New York. Um, Bryant Park is, I never was a full time there. I was always a part time because I always used to have like two, three jobs. And I would make all of those part time. So that way I have full time
Yeah.
altogether. Um, yeah, I mean, Brand Park had one of the great thing I liked about Bryant Park is that, I mean, in New York City restaurants in general is like that. Everybody is kind of this is their a small stop where everybody is doing something that is fulfilling them. This Bryant Park is kind of giving them a bridge to get there.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and also the management kind of understood that,
yeah,
and they were very flexible in that front,
yeah,
and they were like, you guys got in my understanding, and this is how I felt. I don't know, and I'm sure because everybody was doing like a lot of. You were doing music. Someone was doing acting. Someone was going to college, and all these things are happening while everybody's doing what they're doing in Bryant Park, making their money and paying for their daily life and going about it. Right? Isn't
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was like a lot of the restaurants at in New York, they kind of you just and that's the thing too, is like not when you're working a job and then but your real passion is like music or something or acting or something like that,
Right.
to not like it's almost, for me, it was always to not get too invested into the restaurant part,
Right.
because then you start to like lose fact of the thing you really want to do. And I know that's hard for people because, everybody needs money and stuff too. So it's definitely like don't get sucked into management, don't get, stuff like that, because then you might like lose touch of that. But yeah, I think yeah, you have to have sort of that understanding. It was weird kind of actually when I moved to Philadelphia in a restaurant I worked at. I was like, what do you do? Meaning like, what do you do besides this? And
Right.
everybody's like, "Oh, this is what I do." And I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. What do you mean you don't like, there's nothing on the side? No, I plan on working here for the rest of my life. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And that's
Yeah,
totally,
if that works
but in New
for you,
York,
right?
everybody's doing something. So it
Right.
was so weird to me. And then I was the weird person who was like, what are you doing? You're writing a book? And I'm like, yeah, I'm writing a book. And so like, you just don't want to work
As
here?
for
Like,
when you working and the experience of being a waiter, um, and serving other people food, what did that come with any kind of did that bring you any kind of knowledge in your daily life? Like, what did that teach you throughout that process when you had that?
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I mean, I let my strong point was like people pleasing and just getting along with people, being very personable. That was kind of, even if I wasn't sometimes the best server, like, I would always be very personable. And, like you get to talk to people.
Uh-huh.
Bryant Park, we got to wait a lot of celebrities. Sometimes you can make contacts there, sometimes you can meet people.
Right, right,
Um, so there was that. There was a lot of that happening sometimes, of people, meeting, networking, stuff like that. So yeah, there was always, and then you just networking in between your coworkers. Like
right,
our first band was built on like half the people from our restaurant coming to see us, but that built us into a bigger audience because they were like, we already had like a built-in audience of like our coworkers, and that gave us a lot of people. Then you start to get, so we were selling out shows, show after show, for a while. And but that's what networking, that's what, if you utilize the restaurant business like that, you can make a lot of contacts, and your friends hopefully get your friends from the restaurant to come, and like make them your fan base. And
right,
then that's your core fan base, and then that spreads, because now people are like, wow, they got a good crowd. And then it turns into more and more and more. And that's what we did for many years. So, yeah. I mean, and Bryant Park was like another, Robbie Gill and people like that who played music and always had a lot of the people from the restaurant come and support them.
right, right. As for I see you a lot of reels and you do a lot of TikTok videos, and you try to influence other writers, where you ask them to start um,
Yeah.
start today,
Yeah.
and that's very encouraging. So, um, as for the also you we talked about the process. Process can be very grueling to get to the starting to the finish line. Um, can you what message do you usually try to give to your audience? And can you also describe the process of writing a book and starting to and to get to the publisher and publish it, the step by step, so that if a writer wants to write a book, they could these are the things they have to go through to get to the finish line.
Yeah. I mean, that's but both of those are like the social media part is definitely like it's sometimes I just like to call them like messages to myself, like to kind of remind and then and that helps a lot of other people because I know there might be either further behind or something like that, but it's like, you always have to start from somewhere. And that is a lot of what I talk about. And I haven't done a lot of social media lately because like I keep saying, it's like I've been doing just trying to get one step ahead. So it's like, and I try not to, so that I've been writing a book and I've been training for this new job. And so I'm like, okay, one thing has to go or else I'm gonna like, go insane. So and I will actually come out and when I finally come back and start making more social media posts again, that's what it will be about. It's like balance. It's always about balance. And I think it's like that's what I'm always telling people to like write the first page. And it's kind of just encouraging people. I know it's like a hard, just do it for the fun of it and not for the success of it.
Hmm.
And then maybe you're gonna have success with it because you're not gonna have success if you're not having fun. And like if you do something and you somehow, I don't know, you do have success, but it was a pain to make, it's going to be a pain to make the second one too. So it's not
Right,
going to be your whole life. And if that's the thing that you're getting paid for, then it's not fun. It's like going to a job every day that you don't like, but you're like, well, I make money though. And you're like, but I hate my life. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that's you should like love what you're doing. Um, that way you're going to finish it because writing a book takes such a long time
right,
that it's like if you don't love it then you're just gonna you're gonna get halfway through and not finish. So
right.
it's always about like going through that process and enjoying the process. And that's what I would say, even like the process of getting a book to the finish point is to continuously keep going. Like it helps to have an outline, like I didn't have an outline for the Sunflower or some of the
Hmm.
other books to start with, and then I kind of reimagined them with an outline and kind of given them. Um, but this is like learning from your mistakes types of things.
Hmm.
What I would say going forward from even for myself when I'm like I have a fourth book idea. That one's more the most outlined of any of the four books that I've been working on. And I haven't even started it yet, but I know it like I know how it's going to go. For the other books, I sort of knew where they were going to go, but like the writing process, and some people just do this. Um, some successful writers,
It's
like
11 o'clock.
Neil Gaiman, does this. He just writes, and he actually just writes in with a pencil and like
Right,
types
right.
it out later, which I could never do. But yeah, so I mean, there really is no one process. There are things that can make it easier for certain people. That's why, like, even when I was coaching a couple people in writing, I have to get to know them because then I know what they can do and how they're going to get it done. Not everybody's going to be like how I did it because my brain's different and your brain's different. If I was, I'd be like, do you want to feel calm and not like chaotic? Some people don't mind the chaos. if you don't want to feel chaotic, you want an outline, and you want to like you kind of want the big points of the story. This is where they're going to go, and now I just got to write in between these lines and get there.
Would you say
Now,
that,
now I
yeah? Would you say that it's just that you whatever it is, you have to find your process and finish one, then you would know how to start and finish.
yeah, yeah, and it's like basically once you find that your process, it's
Right.
like being consistent with that process,
Right.
and not like that's the name of the game is really just consistency and staying with the one project that you're working on at the time. Because a lot of times the one thing that really stops most writers is like, I got this other idea. I'm like, so what? Write it down, put it away. Like just because that's one of the keys. It doesn't matter what type of writer you are, or what process you have. These are some of the things that you ultimately have. You have to enjoy the process. You have to be, you have to have a routine. You have to stay consistent, like until the end, because it's going to be, like I said, it's like a marathon, and you got to like get up and train every day, and you got to like go a little bit more until you're at that point.
So
Um,
now that let's say you finished the book, now you talked about finding a publisher. Is that the next step, or you have to find the editor first? You have to find the
um,
editor.
For a lot of times, yeah, I mean, depends on how well the first book I got an editor before I
Mhm.
even started pitching it. Or actually halfway through, I pitched it before I got an editor, and then I was like, well, maybe I'll get an editor, and she definitely helped and made the book much better, which gave me a better chance. But still, it again, I don't always recommend it because you could people you can pay up to like $1,700 to get your book edited. So I wouldn't suggest everybody do that, but get some beta readers, get some friends who can help you. If you don't want to pay for $1,700, because that's about on average what it would cost you, if not more.
Wow.
So yeah, and that's just to pitch a book. I mean, at the end of the day, the good part about it is that you'll have an edited book. So if it doesn't get picked up by an agent, you have a well-edited book that you can kind of bring right to self-publishing. So there's definitely value in it. Um, they just, people are going to see things that you can't see. I mean, there's still even I had three people go through that book, an editor, a proofreader, and there's still mistakes in there. I'm still,
Right.
and I read books all the time that are published New York Times best-selling, and I find typos and I find mistakes, and I'm like, okay, it makes me feel a little bit better. I'm not the only person who makes mistakes. Like
So
there's a thousand
after
rereads and everything.
right, and after you do that, you send out to different agents or different publishers.
Well, yeah, once you get an agent, they will try to help sell your book to a publisher.
Got it.
That's kind of the main process. And most publishers won't even look at your stuff unless you have an agent.
Got it.
So unless they're like a smaller niche publisher. But yeah, so like that's the main process is you query these agents and try to get them to like your book, but if you have to remember that they're getting 100 queries a day, and they also have, a limited number of authors that they can keep on track. Um, and they're really working for you. You give them 10% if you get a deal.
Right.
So that's kind of how it works. It feels like you're working for them, but it really should be mutual, but you have to remember that they are working for you essentially. So, like some people get really excited to have an agent, and then the agent really doesn't work for them because they have 30 other clients and they're not really putting you into forefront.
Right.
So now it feels like you have an agent, but they're really not doing the work for you. So, it's a tough ball game. That's even tougher than the writing part sometimes. Like just
To get
that's
into
your,
that,
your skin gets even thicker once you get to that process. Then you're like, okay. But again, that's why you just keep writing, and you know, what's the best idea that you're going to come out with? Is this if you're putting in the work, at least you're giving yourself an opportunity to get there. You're not sending out, if you just wrote your book and you send it to like one agent, you're probably that's a very low percentage shot of getting in there. And not only that, I can tell you just from pitching two books that I have agents who now remember me. They're like, "Oh, you pitched me this other book." These are both really good ideas. Um, like they'll say, like, unfortunately, I have this guy and like this writer who's already on here, and I'm like, um, that you're in competitive mode, whether
Right.
it's not just writing the book. You stay in competitive mode when you're selling the book and pitching the book and marketing the book, depending if you're doing it on your own or if you're pitching to other people. There's always work involved. So now what I do is like I kind of the writing process is one thing, and then there's pitching process is another thing. So those are like separate days where I focus on different sort of projects, but it's more routine and less chaotic and sporadic.
Right. I mean, it definitely has a lot of different process and a lot of different industry to be able to touch before you even publish a book.
Yeah.
And which part annoys you the most? I know
Which
the
part?
writing is you love it, but after that, what are the what which part would you say is the most that I wish I didn't have to take care of that?
I mean, that is really why you want an agent. And once you get that, and it's maybe you get a great agent and they sell your book,
Uh-huh.
and then you're doing more writing and less because now they're doing that work for you.
Got it.
That's really why you really want it because then you can more focus on
Or
the
if you want to skip well, you cannot skip the agent because a good publisher wouldn't see your book if you don't
no.
have an agent,
There's
right?
very few. Yeah, there are only smaller publishers will and then it's kind of like the same thing that you're going to go through with an agent, where you're gonna pitch them your book the same way you would pitch an agent that book. And even if they pick it up, you're not going to get the you're not going to get that marketing that you're going to get from the big five or big four publishing companies because that's their job. The publisher's job is to
Market it,
market.
right?
Yeah, and smaller publishers don't have as much money to do that, so they're going to give you some opportunities and help sell your book a little bit more, but not like the numbers that people are imagining, like New York Times bestseller.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I hope someone watch this video and they go and buy your book, and also if there is anybody watching who is a connection to the publisher, get in touch with you.
Yeah.
Um, the another so what's your future plan? I know that you have a couple of books lined up,
hmm
and you are in a journey of moving around, living in Airbnb, which is another great experience, I would say. And you're getting to do that. Um, so how are you looking at it in your future? How are you organizing yourself? Yeah.
Um, I mean, right now, like, yeah, I'm pitching the one book. I'm, yeah, the thing that I'm doing is like I'm becoming like a bookkeeper. So that's like a weird, something that well, I started doing it with my wife's business, and
Right.
I was like, okay, I want to learn how to do this better, and I can take on a bunch of clients, and I can do this online, and it's something I kind of like because as a writer, I'm sort of meticulous with like numbers and their books and stuff. It's totally separate from like writing books, but it sounds the same. But yeah, it's just about like being able to give myself the opportunity so I can write and I can market myself, and also like I'm a big, as much as I love doing all the art, I'm a bigger fan of life and enjoying like life in a sense of like a lot of people I kind of for whatever reason, some people want to, and this is what fulfills you. And what fulfills me is to like, I would like to travel more. So that's kind of why we started doing this, is so we can like live. Obviously, we want to be able to save money. We want to be able to, invest in ourselves. My wife has a business that she runs. But so it's just, but having this is about a little bit more stability.
Hmm.
So that's why, if anything, like I'm kind of fast, just like I said, I like to see results. So that's why I'm like fast tracking through this and sort of putting a little other things on the side burner just so I can get through this and then I can, now get back to my books and kind of and have a process of like, okay, this is how I'm going to make money. Because I've been doing all kinds of weird odd jobs on the side,
Right.
and that's my cat, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, I see it.
He's meowing. But yeah, so I think as far as like life goes, it's just like let's explore and enjoy it. And as I have three books and there's a fourth book coming, But again, like I said, I have to finish this third book first, and I'm not even going to touch the fourth book until then. I'll write little notes down here and there, and when I
Mhm.
get to that, I'll be very excited to write it. But until I'm finished with this third book, yeah. So it's like life's all over the place. So
Yeah, I mean that's great.
it
That's
feels
how
scattered,
I
but
feel like that's exciting. You know, you gotta and the little jobs or the side jobs that you are doing, that those are to pay bills, right? Those
yeah, yeah, that's the thing. You can't write if you can't pay the bills.
yeah. But I know whatever you're doing, that I feel like that's how one has to do it to get to where they want to
Yeah,
go, right? And it's very exciting, and I'm very happy to hear all of those things. And think so. In that note, we'll just go ahead and wrap it up. And I hope to have more conversation in the future with you and see where how it's progressing. You know?
yeah, definitely, man,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. So
Uh,
thank you so much.
yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I wish you all the best of luck. And whoever is watching, please go buy his book. It's amazing, and I can't wait to read your next book, man.
It's called the Sun Follower by
The Sun Follower, yes, by Danny Drogone.
by
Is your name what is the last name is Dragone, right?
Dragone. Yes, Danny Dragone.
Dragone. And
Yeah,
where does it come from?
Italy.
Italy. Okay. So you
Yeah,
have do you have a Italian background?
yeah. Half Italian, half Irish, or actually quarter Italian, three-fourths Irish.
Oh, nice. Very nice. All right, thank you
Boy,
so much.
I need to pay attention. All right, thank you for having me, Alum.
Of
Have a good
course,
one.
man. Take care.
You too.